Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully it will come up without my notes. Is that come up correctly? No notes? Excellent.
Yes.
Wonderful. So our presentation here today is about the flexible learning project that we've been doing. It's a project which is beginning to become business as usual. So basically what I'd like to start off with is just to give you a bit of an overview about who Navitas is. So as you have just heard, I'm Georgie Avard, the Senior Manager Learning and Teaching, and my colleague here is Peter Mathis, who is the Lead Learning Designer, and we're both from Learning and Teaching Services in the Navitas University Partnership Australasia division. So an introduction to this division of Navitas, it actually delivers pathway and internationalization programs for students who may not otherwise be able to access university programs. So the division itself, we have 18 business units. That's made up of English language providers, pathway providers, and managed campuses. And we have locations in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and the United Arab Emirates. So Navitas English is part of the UPA, and it's the largest provider of English language training in Australia. And historically, at our schools, we've taught English language intensive courses for overseas students or ELICOS to more than 8,000 students of over 50 nationalities. So what is the kind of things that we're going to be covering today? Well, first off, what I thought we would like to do is to tell you about what we mean when we talk about flexible learning. What is this thing that we've built a whole project around? We'll talk about the principles underlying it, the learning modes that are part of it. We'll look at some of the student personas that are part of like our Navitas colleges and the kinds of pathways they might like to choose in flexible learning and how that experience of flexible learning is done or experienced by the student and teacher, especially during the kind of concurrent sessions. We've built a flexible learning design program for our teachers, so we'll have a look at that briefly. We'll look at our Poly Studio technology, and we'll talk you through a unit that's been redesigned. And that's something which Peter has great expertise about, and so he'll be leading you through that. Then it'll be back to me to talk about the governance of the project, and we'll talk about some of the kind of initial results and feedback that we've got from stakeholders. Lastly, we'll look at moving forward. What are we planning to do in the next upcoming months? So, flexible learning, what is it? Well, firstly, across our colleges, we have varying student body size and composition. We have varying partner university requirements, and we have different programs available. And this meant that a one-size-fits-all model would not be an ideal approach for us. So instead, the unique requirements of each college was accommodated through enabling flexibility in the implementation of a flexible learning model. So when we were researching what we could do at Navitas UPA, we came across the works of a person called Dr. Brian Beattie and his HighFlex model. This set us on a path of looking into what flexible learning could look like for our education kind of institution, which is about pathways, particularly in times when borders were closed and with the unpredictability of lockdowns, both nationally and internationally. So when it comes to defining flexible learning, we wanted something quite simple. So simply put, flexible learning is a design model which allows flexibility for students to attend classes face-to-face or online, synchronously or asynchronously. So in Beattie's model, students would get a chance to choose their learning mode week by week. Now, we've adapted this a little bit because we know our pathway students and our international students need a little bit more support. So we've looked at it like where possible, the students should attend on campus. If they're not able to do that, they can attend class synchronously via Zoom, or they can alternatively do the asynchronous part using the learning management system. In this case, we use Moodle. So here is our flexible learning project model. Just to though point out, we've got some underlying theories and frameworks that underpin our model. We've looked through social constructivism, connectivism, the universal design for learning framework. We have a community of inquiry framework approach, and also a kind of a flipped learning approach as well. So these theories and frameworks, they all focus on connectivity and meaning, and they support a sense of belonging across the 3 learning participation modes, not just one, but to try and get that sense of belonging across all the 3 of them. So it's a model that can empower students to self-select and adjust their preferred study mode pathway throughout their course and within their subjects. It's also a model that allows enrolled online students the opportunity to occasionally opt for face-to-face learning experiences, and on-campus students to opt for online learning experience if on-campus attendance becomes problematic for them. So the beauty here is that we move beyond a predetermined hard line between online and on-campus study, reimagining student study as a no-line experience where they can move across these learning modes or streams. So due to this flexibility, it involves combining traditional on-campus elements with technology, resources, and interactions, such as online learning, to provide a form of equivalence. Where possible, our colleges are transitioning back to teaching face-to-face. However, there is always going to be a need to cater for those students who remain online and who may do so irrespective of this pandemic. So we recognize that we must ensure that this offering is deployed where it will not compromise the overall student learning experience. So what you can see here in this model, positioned at the project level, so it's at quite a high up look down into the model. The points on the left-hand side are addressed across the program, but the 3 main are the principles, the objectives, and the learning modes, which are really the central focus for us. So BD's model is based on 4 key principles. And whilst we were looking at our student population, we decided we really wanted to have that connectivity part. So we added that, but I'll talk about that in a moment. So the principle of flexibility. This means we have fully developed learning modes and they're made available to our students. So if a student is unable to attend class, an alternative is already developed for them. So there's that alternative pathway already there. It gives the student confidence that the learning materials and activities will always be available to them. Equivalency is an extremely important principle for us. This means that no matter which learning mode the student undertakes, they should be able to meet the same learning outcomes. These may not be covered by the same activity that you would do in class, although sometimes that might happen, but oftentimes that's quite difficult or it has to be different. So even like, for example, if you undertake a discussion in class, the experience in the online discussion may be different to the one in class. The important thing is the activity either in class or online will lead to the equivalent learning outcomes. The next point of our principles is versatility. So this principle really has implications for staff and student workload. When a teacher conducts an activity in the classroom, they can make these learning materials available to the online students and vice versa. So for example, if there's a recording from class, you can make this recording available to your students. However, you would also ensure that you add some activities to this recording for the online students so that it is an active experience rather than passive learning. In other words, we call it develop activities once and use them in all learning modes as appropriate. And this is where the narrative in the online space is important, so that students are aware of the requirements and it creates a much richer learning environment for those students who have to access it also online. So accessibility. Now, this is an important principle, but it's not just about the accessibility that we have to come and meet in terms of legal responsibilities, such as, having alternative forms of expression, engagement, and assessment for students. We also need to provide access for students who want to use technologies to access the class. And if they don't have those resources to do that, we need to come up with the questions and answers those questions about what can we do to help them, how we can support them with technologies. Can we provide them with information about where they can find a local high-speed network if they don't have it? Can we provide them with the skills that they need to be good online learners? So not every student has these skills to begin with. So the flexible learning model provides educational opportunities and environments for students as long as we do it well. And this last principle, connectivity, like I said, is the one that we've added and we'd like to emphasize because it enables all students in all learning modes to have a sense of connection, collaboration, and create a sense of belonging. And we do this through the use of technology, but also through engaging learning activities and a particular skill set that we help our teachers develop. So as mentioned earlier, taking the 5 principles into consideration, units are redeveloped so that students are provided with the flexibility to attend their weekly class in one of the 3 learning modes. Okay, so here what you will see is 1 week of a student's learning mode, so to speak. So in the prepare, the before class, and the reflect and progress, which is after class, those are done in the learning management system and all students do them online. So they prepare and then they reflect and progress after class online. The flexibility comes from the engage part of it. In this engage part, they can choose to come on campus and study in class physically, the synchronous part, or they can choose to come into class via Zoom or another video conferencing tool that's still synchronous. And those 2 then happen at the same time, the on-campus and online synchronous. If they can't make either of those, they can attend their learning engagement activities online asynchronous, and they do that within the week. So it's not fully that they just do it at their own pace. They have to do that within the week. No matter what, across any of those 3 learning modes, we have to ensure, though, that the equivalent learning outcomes are being achieved. So here is what flexible learning looks like from both a student and teacher perspective. The teacher will support learning face-to-face, our learning mode 1, and via video conferencing, which is learning mode 2, concurrently. We have something called the Poly Studio equipment to help us make this work. And Peter will touch upon that in the upcoming slides. If the student cannot attend campus or be able to attend via video conferencing, they have the opportunity to learn via equivalent learning activities online in their own time during that week. All students, however, have common learning activities across the week and are able to connect to these learning activities and resources and learning communities via, in our case, the Moodle unit site. So here we have some typical student personas of some of our Navitas students. We have Chen, who's an international student. He hasn't been able to get his visa application approved in time. So he's going to be delayed, but he doesn't want to wait for another term to study. Then we have Abhinav. He's actually in Australia. He's already enrolled in a diploma. He would prefer to attend campus and ask questions. He wants to, liaise with his students, get to know his students. And he would like to do that, but sometimes because he has work, he would like to sometimes attend class in other ways. And then we have Alana, who is a domestic student, full-time job, a young child living in rural Victoria, still wants to study, so attending campus is a challenge. She doesn't want to miss out though. So here you will see what they could possibly do with our learning pathways model, our flexible learning approach. Across the top, you've got your weeks, and you can see that Chen, Abhinav, and Alana choose to attend classes or engage with their activities variously according to their kind of context or pressures that they have during the week. So Chen, he said he wanted to attend campus as much as he possibly could, but he was late. So the first 2 times that he comes on class, he has to do it via Zoom, but he hasn't missed out on anything because he was able to actually do that. The next 2 weeks, he's settling in. He might be like in lockdown or something. So he's done online synchronous, asynchronous, and the rest he does on campus. Abhinav, on the other hand, he really wanted to come to campus as much as possible. So most of the time he comes on campus and sometimes he Zooms if he has work issues. Alana, she's going to be a little bit, it's going to be difficult for her to attend campus. So she chooses to try and study via Zoom much of the time. Sometimes she'll do asynchronous, and when she can, she'll come onto campus when opportunity provides it. So one of the challenges we have is actually supporting our teachers in learning to understand the flexible learning model. Also learning how to effectively create equivalencies and to take those principles and build a really nice active learning environment. So Learning and Teaching Services have developed a 10-week flexible learning design program, and it's a professional development program, not a course, but a program designed by us at Learning and Teaching Services to support teachers as they learn the skills needed to develop their own units following the flexible learning design approach. And we've modeled our actual program on what we expect our teachers to be able to offer to their students. So we use the same Moodle template and we follow the same principles. So throughout the program, participants engage in various tasks and have opportunities to join live sessions and discipline-based communities of practice. We have various online spaces and activities which are available for all participants to interact and collaborate. And we also have content activities that can be reviewed and completed asynchronously as well. So the teachers didn't have to always come and be with us synchronously. They had the opportunity to do it asynchronously as well. In that regard, all our live sessions were recorded and they were posted up on site, and our teachers could watch that at any time during the program. In the last 2 weeks of the program, we have our teachers focus on building units up to week 4, and they have consultation sessions with their learning and teaching facilitators. Now, obviously, we want to encourage our teachers to participate and do the very best they can. So we've given them a bit of I would say, an incentive by saying, if you complete satisfactorily your 4 weeks and you meet the minimum requirements, we'll be offering you a flexible learning design badge. And our badges are actually socially shareable because we use the Credly platform. So it's quite easy for them to then share their badges and put it on their CVs or put it onto their LinkedIn pages, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm now going to stop a little bit because it's up to time where Peter will talk about the Poly Studio and take you through a redesigned unit, looking at some best practice and showcasing what's possible with our flexible learning model. Thank you. I'll stop sharing now, Peter.
I do believe my slides are now shared correctly on your side.
Yes.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay, so let's get a bit of a start. So hi everyone, I hope you all are having a lovely day and been enjoying the conference so far. My name is Peter. I'm the learning designer at Navitas with our division, and I'll be covering some of the technology and also the LMS build that we deployed across our colleges. So the general view of flexible learning is that students can choose how they will participate. Students are provided the opportunity to attend and engage on a weekly basis through 3 learning modes. So either synchronously in person, so on campus, or remotely through a conferencing software such as Zoom, or asynchronously, typically through a learning management system such as Moodle, which is an equivalent online learning experience. So to begin with, I will discuss synchronous delivery and the technology that's been introduced across our colleges. The delivery of such a model is rather simple. The teacher conducts class on campus on a specific day and time, whereby some students attend class in person and another group of students attend by connecting to a live synchronous stream of the classroom through a conferencing software. Across our colleges, we use Zoom. The flexible learning design model requires teachers to be able to teach face-to-face in a classroom on campus, but also include their remote students by having them join the session in real time. So how do we actually do this? Well, let me first begin with the technology that's been introduced in our colleges that provides the necessary means to facilitate synchronous classes. So the first piece of technology we introduced was the Poly Studio. It is a 4K video conferencing camera with a built-in soundbar, microphone, and comes with pan, tilt, and zoom functionality. It is an all-in-one product that we have trialed successfully across our colleges with some positive feedback from teachers and students attending remotely. The Poly Studio is a complete plug-and-play unit which works with various software. So any challenges with regards to conferencing software that might vary across our colleges was also addressed. For teachers that wanted more hands-on control of this system, it did come with a remote control, which granted easy access to options to adjust the camera and audio settings. Throughout the process of scoping possible solutions to cater for our synchronous delivery requirements, we required technology that was portable, easy to manage, and have the functionality to provide an engaging and immersive experience for our remote learners. We found the Poly Studio to have attractive features that would cater for our classroom needs, such as a camera having a wide 120-degree field of view, so it could easily capture a lot of the classroom and up to 5 times zoom. Because many of the students did not feel immersed in remote learning compared to the experience within a physical classroom for a lot of us, we want to avoid common static setups, such as a camera only focused at one point of the classroom, and try to bridge this gap between the virtual space that existed between the teacher and also the student. Now, the Poly Studio has an option for something that's called group framing and speaker tracking. This feature has proven to be quite invaluable. With this function enabled, the camera will automatically zoom in on groups or the active speaker within the field of view. So when a teacher presents their material in the classroom, walks around, etc., the camera will also follow accordingly. We also found the acoustic fence with beam shaping enabled. It's another type of feature that's actually there with the Poly Studio to be highly beneficial in blocking out unnecessary background noises, even in the classroom. So this noise block technology intelligently tunes out distracting sounds that interrupts meetings and only captures the voices within the defined zone. So within the space of where you might be presenting or within the classroom itself. So this was really beneficial for our large classrooms or rooms that connected to busy hallways where students were walking by. We were pretty pleasantly surprised by the quality of the onboard speaker as well. Voices were clear depending on the mic that was used. Any video or audio streams would be heard from the other side of the classroom by students. We also were able to avoid the need for introducing wireless lapel microphones in the classroom, as the Poly Studio has 6 inbuilt microphones and picked up on speech with ease. We also ensured that it was future-proofed as well by having the ability to connect a wireless microphone for larger classrooms or even lecture theatres. That's pretty much easy enough to do when it comes down to Zoom or other conferencing software by selecting your audio. By default, the camera was positioned in the classroom next to the workstation, aimed towards the typical space that a teacher would present from. However, to provide more flexibility, we decided to get all Poly Studios mounted onto an adjustable air cushion tripod. That allowed the teacher to pan and swivel the camera, providing them the opportunity, if they desired, to face the camera to the audience for group activities, to make the remote students feel a little more involved and connected to their on-campus peers. What we also paired this camera with was pretty much essentially a large 24-inch touchscreen monitor. Many of our teachers adopted virtual whiteboards when we made that radical change to remote teaching in the past year. And we found that many want to continue using virtual whiteboards, where students in the classroom could see the whiteboard on the projector screen and students remotely can see it shared through Zoom. We also want to provide the opportunity for teachers to extend their displays to better manage material on their screens in the classroom. Given this emphasis on technology within the classroom itself and this digital space, we also turned to the learning management system and deployed a design that catered for flexible learning, which I'll go through now. So across our colleges, the learning management platform we use is Moodle, where we all have different capabilities, experiences, and confidence in using Moodle as our LMS platform. When the necessity to integrate flexible learning into the Moodle, well, with the necessity of actually integrating flexible learning into this Moodle space, we decided to develop a template that was deployed across all colleges. Now, as you're well aware, for a lot of us, Moodle is an online environment where learning and collaboration takes place. It's a more student-centered approach. However, the structure of a Moodle subject can have significant impact on the student learning and satisfaction. The design itself was built to allow the integration of flexible learning, the integration of all three learning modes, being on campus, remote, through Zoom, and also asynchronous, so your online learning mode. And for students to seamlessly transition sequentially through or before, during, and after class exercises with minimal effort. That also to retain some form of consistency from one subject to the next during the completion of their courses. So pretty much essentially, let me just open it up quickly. Having a well-structured Moodle unit minimizes the unit navigation time, leaving more time for students to spend collaborating, communicating, engaging with their subject. Now, this template provided the opportunity to optimize the different features in Moodle to create learning paths that meet students' needs effectively through sequencing resources and activities. Now, the deployment was structured around 3 levels, around the Moodle design level, being navigation, instruction, narrative, and a sequential layout, followed by the weekly topic level, and lastly, resource and activities, which I will unpack for you guys very shortly. Now, the actual format of the templates displays topics or sections as tiles, as you can see by the image there, in a grid layout, rather than the common lists as seen in many other LMS systems or default Moodle layouts. This provides a more user-friendly approach, and the layout adopts to different screen sizes, orientations, and it's very mobile-friendly, we realized, and responsive. Tiles are used to show unit topics and activities, which are subtiles, and the tiles are customizable, so you can add pictures or icons. You bring some color and personality to your online space. The tile format also removes the chance of that dread scroll of death that sometimes we encounter, and to also encourage our teachers to further refine their Moodle design and package content together. Now, we've seen some disasters in LMS spaces before, so this template provides the opportunity for our teachers to rethink their online space within a more uniform manner across the colleges. Now, from a technology perspective, we're looking at faster loading times and a cleaner method to exhibit our resources and our activities, and obviously recommendations were provided to teachers for learning design and development purposes to ensure accessibility and usability was accounted for through the program that Georgia went through earlier. So moving forward a little bit, some of the key elements we introduced in the template involved granting the opportunity for students to select what learning mode they would attend and participate in. And I believe one of the participants in this conference earlier actually asked that question. So we developed a task labeled My Weekly Learning Mode, which was customizable to account for any subject and their learning modes offered in a weekly basis. So for example, if a subject in a particular week had an excursion, perhaps it was not suitable for the remote students, but can be completed potentially asynchronously to meet the same type of learning outcomes and objectives. So students were able to select what learning mode they desired at the beginning of each week, and teachers were able to track their selections. And such data has proven quite valuable and to analyze the pathways students take across the courses. As flexible learning and Navitas focus on connection and presence, as you saw in the model earlier, we also incorporated an interactive social wall. So this social wall, for better words, was designed as a template through Padlet, and we embedded the code into the LMS and named it Class Connection. Now, this space was designed to bridge the gap between face-to-face and online learning experiences to provide a familiar space reminiscent to a social media platform. So it allowed teachers to post updates, interesting links, videos, pictures related to weekly content and topics. This space also provided the opportunity for students to comment, react, and also share. So I'll give you a little example image there, screenshot. We also added forums for announcements and Q&A, and to further reinforce accessibility, we place shortcut posts, which is on the far right-hand side of the image. In Moodle, they're called blocks. Link to the forums below, the contact details of the subject coordinator for quicker access and just little reminders. So when the students access this space, they'll see straight away what's happening on the class connection. And onto the right-hand side, they'll see latest announcements from forums and also what upcoming assessments were due in the following weeks. So moving forward from here, what we're going to do now is start unpacking the actual weekly topics. So when you enter the topic, what sequence would you go through? What type of items would you come across as well? So upon clicking the topic tiles or weekly sections, as we call it, students can engage in their weekly classes. The actual layout of each topic or section has a distinct learning pathway with clear signposting and instructions to ensure students know which resources and activities they are to complete and in what order. We organize the content in logical sections, so before, during, and after class, and use action verbs such as prepare, engage, and reflect for teacher stage of learning. So, resources, activities, and tasks are grouped under these stages and are presented in a sequential layout in order to ensure students complete them in the correct order. Now, synchronous and asynchronous learning modes for classes are present under the engage section, where students would only access the learning mode they selected at the beginning of the week. Clear instructions and signposting are present as well to ensure they're actually going through the correct mode. Students have the opportunity to access the material relevant to the learning mode and either attend and participate on campus, remotely via Zoom, or complete their classes completely online, asynchronous. So I'll just show you a little brief example of an actual live subject as well there. So the principle of equivalency was adopted to ensure learning activities for the chosen learning modes of delivery are designed so they lead to equivalent learning outcomes. So it's very important that we actually considered that when we looked at our asynchronous in class and remote via Zoom, and develop equivalent activities and learning experiences for our asynchronous mode as well. So an important element and a challenge with adopting and integrating flexible learning into subjects was really about establishing equivalency, technology, and this digital literacy as well. Now, we advocated for adopting a blended approach that combines online educational materials and opportunities for interaction online with traditional place-based classroom methods, which was suitable to complement the diverse nature of flexible learning and prepare for designing equivalent learning activities. Now, in this example, regardless if the student attended classes synchronously or asynchronously, they first access the outlined requirements before engaging in their classes. In this space, they can read into the context of the classes, requirements, and also the outline before actually participating in those classes. Now, topic content such as readings, activities, and other required material are compiled in the class tiles, as you can see as 2 and 3 on this slide, or for better words, interactive books within Moodle. However, the flexibility of the template also allowed teachers to upload such material as individual items, or tiles in this case. So they could, rather than compiling it into a book, they could have activity 1, activity 2, activity 3, lecture slides as PDF documents, so forth. Now, given the synchronous or concurrent, as we call it, has students both on campus and remote, the consideration of how activities and tasks will run across on campus and remote students, this connection and integration between learning modes facilitated by technology, was an important agenda. We saw connection and this high level of equivalency as well, where students can fluently connect within the classroom with their online peers. The aim here was how technology in the classroom can seamlessly integrate all students into a single cohort, regardless if you're on campus or remote student, but also show how this technology in the classroom opens the door to other digital technology. So we're looking at a flexible environment here. In most cases, we can use, for example, online tools through the LMS, such as forums. We can use Padlets. There's numerous tools where students in the classroom can also engage with students via Zoom as well, which a lot of us have had the opportunity to explore since COVID. So given that we need to provide an asynchronous mode of delivery, it was suggested to develop activities with remote learners in mind first, to make it more manageable when adopting and integrating technology into their subjects. Now, the asynchronous mode was to be designed to lead to equivalent outcomes, allowing all students to achieve the subject's intended learning outcomes, regardless of the mode they participated in. The consideration of connectivity being part of flexible learning design model that you saw earlier was very important. So to allow students across all learning modes engage in the same online learning spaces. So in some cases, once again, we explored a variety of third-party tools such as Padlets and Flipgrids, and also the capabilities of the actual LMS. I believe, yes. So Georgie, I believe that is now your opportunity to continue.
Yes, it is. Thanks. So I'm going to share my screen again. I just need to get it to the correct one. Okay, are we back up? Excellent. Okay, so as you can see, this is quite a big project. So we've involved 11 of our colleges across the UPA division, across Australia and New Zealand. We've had 4 phases, from the pilot, which was in October 2020, through to phase 4, which will end in September 2021. So by this time, we'll have 500 units redesigned. And at this stage, we've actually professionally developed 350 or more teachers to help them redesign the unit. So there was a question there asking who did the redesigning. That was the teachers themselves. They had responsibility for doing that, and they came through our professional development program to do so. But to help with combating the usual challenges of implementing a large project over a short period of time, and to oversee the rollout across the divisions, and that's including all the 11 colleges, at the beginning, we established this robust governance structure. So the governance structure is made up of stakeholders across the division, and it included a headed steering committee. And we had working groups in the area of learning design and research, data management, technology, communications and change, management, marketing and recruitment, and quality, risk and compliance. So these groups all developed their own action plans and collaboratively worked on change management issues as they arose throughout the phases of the project. So basically, we learned from our pilot phase, we implemented the next phase, we got feedback from colleges and teachers, and we improved upon this feedback, and we rolled out the next phase. This phase 4 is actually going to be our final phase, but we will be developing I would say a separate program for those teachers who are not able to come through these 4 phases. So what is some of the feedback that we've been given? Well, given colleges have varying contexts in which they operate, what we would like to do is to try and measure the success of flexible learning in some way. And that provides a bit of a challenge. The research and data group will work with each of the colleges to determine how they would like to measure success. Our research group have been basically collating feedback received throughout the project phases. And again, like I said, the colleges have been sharing how they've successfully been able to work with their teachers and work with implementing their units, and then sharing that across to other colleges. And we've also got continuous research and reporting in place to measure the success of implementing flexible learning. And we're carrying that out in the short, medium, and long term. So quite frankly, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of granular metrics that can be used to measure success. However, the goal of this project is to improve student outcomes across the board as part of continuous improvement initiatives. So we had a little survey go out to the college directors and academic directors at each college, and we're asking, what would they regard as success? And the results we got back were kind of largely expected. So they said student experience and retention is great, but these have long been priorities in the UPA division, and progress rates, attrition rates are also a KPI that is a standard measuring stick for us. However, we're working with each college because each college context is different. So each college will consider success differently, and we'll work with them to help determine what kind of measures they would look at. So in some colleges, that might be improving retention rates. That might be the most important. It might be pass rates, progress rates, like how many students actually made it into the university. It might be increasing student numbers. So this is why the research and data group will work with each college to determine what they see as success and to work out the measures in which to take in order to measure that. So it's also important that we give the new approach a bit of time to settle down. And this is why we will undertake more thorough research in late 2021 and into the coming years. So I encourage you to watch this space. So thank you for attending this session. I think we might have a bit of time for questions. I'm not sure, maybe not, but I'll hand it back to our conveners for them to let us know. Thank you very much.